Episode 23, The Cutie Mark Chronicles. In my opinion, this is one of the most important episodes of Season 1. I'm Count Lurchalot, and this is Lukewarm Television. The episode starts with the Cutie Mark Crusaders trying another activity to get their cutie marks. In this case, they're trying ziplining. The connectors to the ropes overheat and literally burn through the ropes. So, yeah, this was an epic fail, and I'm amazed they all survived this. And again, no cutie mark. Having tried and failed at getting their cutie marks in a number of activities, they decide to ask around Ponyville and hear from older ponies on how they got their cutie marks. With encouragement from Scootaloo, they decide to seek out Rainbow Dash to hear how she got her cutie mark. Using Scootaloo's scooter, they wander around Ponyville trying to find Rainbow Dash. However, before they can do so, they nearly crash into a family of rabbits. Applejack is chasing these rabbits as they stole apples from her. As an Aussie, I can sympathize with your annoyance with the rabbits, Applejack. Unfortunately, instead of catching the rabbits, she crashes into the Crusaders. Realizing they need all the help they can get, Applebloom decides to ask Applejack how she got her cutie mark. Applejack explains that when she was younger, she didn't want to live the farm life. She wanted to live the sophisticated life like her aunt and Uncle Orange. I guess they're also related to an orange family or something. Also, if you know as much as I do about this series, this scene is a lot sadder than we initially thought, especially with how emotional Granny Smith is getting over Applejack leaving, but I might leave that for another video. Anyway, she leaves Sweet Apple Acres to go live with her aunt and Uncle Orange in Manhattan. Yes, another obvious pun, but I think that's a good one. Though I do have to question, why is no one traveling with Applejack? She's clearly only a child here. Before long, Applejack arrives at her aunt and Uncle Orange's, who, while finding her southern accent quaint, feel they'll make her a sophisticated Manhattan pony in no time. At first it seems to work, but then the other sophisticated ponies are disturbed when Applejack mentions roosters. Why are roosters so odd to them? I don't know. Anyway, they go to eat, but Applejack is also put off by the small portion sizes. It's at this point Applejack becomes homesick. She suddenly sees a glorious rainbow heading back to Ponyville, which at this point, she feels she knows what she's meant to do and runs home to Ponyville. It honestly brings a tear to my eye to see how overjoyed Granny Smith and Macintosh are to see her return. It's at this point Applejack gets her cutie mark and she reveals she's been working the farm ever since. Pay attention to that rainbow from before. It's very important. While Sweetie Belle and Applebloom liked Applejack's story, Scootaloo found it boring. That wasn't boring, it was touching. I'm sorry, let's move on. Because of this, Scootaloo declares they need to find Rainbow Dash so they can hear a cool way of earning a cutie mark. However, before they can find Rainbow Dash, they run into Fluttershy and have an epic stack. If you're wondering what Fluttershy was doing, she was leading some ducks into a pond. Good old Fluttershy and her love for animals. Fluttershy inquires on what they're up to, and upon hearing they are looking for Rainbow Dash to find out how she got her cutie mark, Fluttershy reveals that she wouldn't have got her cutie mark if it wasn't for Rainbow Dash. It's at this point Fluttershy tells her story, which started at summer flight camp. We discover that when she was a child, Fluttershy was a very weak flyer. Because of this, she was regularly bullied by other Pegasi. And if these two cults look familiar, it's because they were part of the same group who bullied Rainbow Dash in the Sonic Rainboom episode. Even as kids, they were jerks. However, Rainbow Dash was shown to be a pretty upstanding pony even as a filly and stands up for Fluttershy. However, this leads the two cults to challenging Rainbow Dash to a race. However, Fluttershy isn't even able to watch the flight because, while she's the person waving the flag, the intensity of their flight actually knocks her off the cloud she's standing on and she falls to the earth below. Thankfully, however, a swarm of butterflies save her from falling. Upon seeing them, Fluttershy thought they were the most beautiful creatures she ever saw. This leads to a Fluttershy musical number where she sings about all the wonders of the earth below. It also gives her the courage she needs to find her flight. The song is interrupted, however, by the same rainbow we saw in Applejack's story. All the animals are frightened, but Fluttershy manages to find the courage to comfort them. This led Fluttershy to realizing she had the ability to communicate with the animals on a different level, which eventually led to the appearance of her cutie mark. Despite the interesting story, all Scootaloo cares about is what happened to Rainbow Dash. Unfortunately, Fluttershy can't confirm what happened in the race because she wasn't there. Scootaloo is still disappointed by this story, so now she thinks they have to find Rainbow Dash immediately. I really don't think you're getting the point of these stories, Scootaloo. Thinking Rarity might know where Rainbow Dash is, they decide to go talk to her next. Hearing the Crusaders are still obsessing over their cutie marks, Rarity decides to tell the story of how she got hers. We then see a flashback to her childhood, where it's revealed she made the costumes for a performance her school put on. While the teacher thinks the costumes are nice, Rarity feels they need to be spectacular. Rarity was about to give up her dream of being a fashionista because she couldn't figure out how to get the costumes to look the way she wanted. However, then her magic ignited and dragged her from her home. She stops when she runs into a big boulder. At first, Rarity is angry as she doesn't know why her horn has pulled her to a random rock. We see a rainboom once again and the rock splits in half, revealing a heap of beautiful gems inside. Rarity then uses the gems to make the costumes spectacular, which of course leads to the appearance of her cutie mark. Scootaloo expresses that none of these stories are getting them closer to finding their cutie marks because they're all about who you are and boring stuff like that, but A cutie mark is supposed to be your special talent, so of course these stories would be about finding out who you are. Rarity actually tries to reinforce my point, but then Scootaloo pushes the Crusaders out of her boutique. Much to Scootaloo's annoyance, they don't run into Rainbow Dash next, they run into Twilight. She tells the tale of how when she was a young filly in Canterlot, she always wanted to go to the Summer Sun celebration, which, as you'll remember from episode 1, is where Princess Celestia raises the sun. She got to see this, which is what led Twilight on her journey to studying magic. This eventually led to her parents enrolling her in Celestia's school for gifted unicorns. Unfortunately, like most gifted schools, she had to pass an entrance exam. I wouldn't have gotten into this school. I suck at exams. For the entrance exam, she had to hatch a dragon egg, and for anyone wondering, yes, that is Spike's egg. Twilight tries her best, but she's unable to conjure enough magic to crack the egg. But then we see the rainboom once again, and lo and behold, she's able to use her magic correctly. This leads to the birth of Spike. Unfortunately, her magic's out of control as she causes the instructors to levitate, turns her parents into plants, and makes Spike grow into a fully grown dragon. Thankfully, Celestia appears and she's able to calm Twilight down, and everyone reverts to their normal form. Twilight initially apologizes for this, however, Celestia is so impressed by Twilight's abilities, she decides to take Twilight as her own personal student. Twilight accepts and she's overjoyed. It's also at this point that Twilight realizes she has her cutie mark, which makes her even more excited. So excited that the excitement jumps to the future as Twilight is literally reliving the moment in her head. I just want to pause for a bit and say, this doesn't do a lot to explain Spike's origins because while it shows that Twilight was the one who hatched his egg, it doesn't really explain how he became her assistant and best friend. Anyway, back to the story, the Crusaders are a little creeped out by Twilight's attitude, so leave to go find Rainbow Dash. They continue to look for Rainbow Dash, but then Pinkie suddenly appears, having heard that they're looking for Rainbow Dash. Upon hearing that they're looking for Rainbow Dash to hear how she got her cutie mark, Pinkie offers to tell them the story of how she got her. Pinkie reveals she was raised on a rock farm with her sisters outside of Ponyville. What do you do on a rock farm? I literally have no idea. I've watched the entire show, and I have no idea what's the purpose of a rock farm. If someone could please tell me, please leave it in the comments below. This flashback shows that Pinkie wasn't always the cheerful pony she is now. However, then Pinkie saw the same rainboom the others saw, which created the most beautiful rainbow she ever saw, causing her to feel more joy than she'd ever felt before and wanting to smile forever. She wanted to share this joy with her family. She invites the family into the silo to show what she's done. She's thrown them, you guessed it, a party. I guess this was the beginning of her party obsession. Her family doesn't seem to know what to think at first, but then they crack the same smile she does and they all have a good time. The joy this brought Pinkie led to the appearance of her cutie mark. You know, it's honestly amazing the origins Pinkie came from, but hey, I guess your origins don't define you. They arrive at Sugar Cube Corner, the Crusaders head inside, and they finally run into Rainbow Dash like Scootaloo wanted. Having heard that they want to hear Rainbow Dash's cutie mark story, she happily tells her tale. It actually brings us back to the earlier scene where Rainbow Dash was about to have a race with the bully colts. We actually see Rainbow Dash was dominating in the race. Rainbow Dash talks about the adrenaline she felt while racing. She loved the speed, the adrenaline, and the wind in her mane. However, Rainbow Dash discovered there was one thing she loved more than flying fast, and that was winning. So she flew faster than imaginable, which led to her performing her very first sonic rainboom, and of course, this led to the appearance of her cutie mark. The Crusaders are of course blown away by the story, but then the main characters connect the dots about their stories. It occurs to all of them that they all saw the sonic rainboom, and all of them got their cutie marks on the exact same day. Meaning, Rainbow Dash was responsible for all of them getting their cutie marks. Which, as Fluttershy points out, means all of them had a special connection even before they met. Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle are of course touched by this, but Scootaloo of course thinks it's sappy. Again, I really don't think Scootaloo got the point of this episode. We then cut to Twilight writing her message to Princess Celestia, and how today she learnt that every pony has a special magical connection with their friends, maybe even before they've met. If you're feeling lonely and still searching for your friends, just look up in the sky, because maybe you and your future friends are looking at the same rainbow. Like I said, I think this is the most important episode of Season 1 because it shows that they were all destined to be best friends even before they met, because they were all connected by a very important event. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next review.